Have you ever read a piece of poetry so profound, it felt like the universe was speaking to you through words? Enter Emily Dickinson. A name synonymous with the hauntingly beautiful realm of American poetry. With over 1,800 poems to her name, Dickinson was a force to be reckoned with. Yet, she lived most of her life in quiet solitude, known to few, and appreciated by even fewer during her lifetime. Born in 1830 in Amherst, Massachusetts, Emily was not your typical 19th century woman. She rarely left her home and was seldom seen by outsiders. But behind the walls of her homestead, she was penning verses that would later be considered among the greatest in the English language. Isn't it curious? How often the loudest voices are the ones we never get to hear in real time. One of her most famous quotes goes, "Hope is the thing with feathers, that perches in the soul, and sings the tune without the words, and never stops, at all." In this line, she likens hope to a bird that continually sings in our hearts, despite adversity. It's a testament to the indomitable spirit of mankind. A spirit that Dickinson herself exemplified. Another unforgettable line from Dickinson's oeuvre is, "Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me." This particular quote personifies death as a patient chaperone, suggesting that death is an inevitable part of life and not something to be feared. Given her own reclusive nature, Emily's fascination with life, death, love, and existence speaks volumes about the depth of her contemplation. Emily Dickinson's accomplishments are not just limited to the world of poetry. Though unrecognized during her time, her work later gave rise to a new form of poetic expression, one that was stark, concise, and often riddled with deep emotion. Her use of unconventional punctuation, slant rhymes, and unique structures has become a hallmark of her style. While Emily Dickinson's name resonates across the echelons of American literature today, during her lifetime, she was known more for her gardening skills than her poetic genius. Living almost her entire life in the family home in Amherst, Massachusetts, Dickinson's world was limited, but within its confines, her imagination knew no bounds. The Dickinson family was well respected within the community, with her grandfather playing a pivotal role in founding Amherst College. This provided Emily with an environment enriched by education and literature from a young age. And while many of her peers ventured into societal roles expected of women, Emily charted her path, one characterized by introspection and an undying love for words. It is said that in her youth, Emily was vivacious and socially engaged, but as years went by, she became more reclusive. Some speculate this was due to various reasons, perhaps personal losses, or maybe health issues. Others believe it was a deliberate choice, allowing her the solitude necessary to create her masterpieces. Her friendships, though limited, were deeply intimate and profound. Her correspondences with friends, particularly with Susan Gilbert, who later became her sister-in-law, showcase the depth of their bond. Through letters, she often shared her poems, thoughts, and emotions, giving us a rare window into her otherwise private world. Another significant influence in her life was religion. Growing up in a devoutly religious household, Emily grappled with faith throughout her life. Her poems often touch upon this struggle, as she wavers between doubt and belief. A favorite line highlighting this internal conflict goes, "Faith is a fine invention, when gentlemen can see, but microscopes are prudent in an emergency." This quote beautifully illustrates her skeptical view of blind faith. Nature, too, played a pivotal role in Emily's works. She was an avid gardener and had an extensive knowledge of plants, trees, and flowers. Her garden was her sanctuary, a place where she could connect with the world on her terms. It's no surprise that many of her poems are infused with botanical references, from roses and daisies to the changing seasons. The Civil War, which raged during her most productive writing years, also influenced Emily, albeit indirectly. Though she seldom wrote explicitly about the war, the themes of death, pain, and existential despair in her poems can be seen as reflections of the turbulent times she lived in. In terms of her poetic style, Emily was an innovator. She often employed unconventional punctuation, slant rhyme, and varied meter. Her use of dashes, for instance, adds a unique rhythm to her verses, urging readers to pause, reflect, and then move on, mimicking the ebb and flow of human emotions. The true depth of Emily's genius was realized posthumously. After her passing in 1886, her younger sister, Lavinia, discovered a trove of hand-bound booklets containing nearly 1,800 poems. Imagine the astonishment of finding such a treasure. The subsequent publication of these works cemented Emily's place as one of the greatest poets in the English language. However, the road to recognition wasn't straightforward. Early editors, in a bid to make her work more palatable for the audience of the time, often altered her poems, standardizing her quirky punctuation, changing words, and even reworking entire verses. It was only in the 1950s, with the publication of the poems of Emily Dickinson, edited by Thomas H. Johnson, that her work was presented as she intended. Now, if you're finding this delve into Dickinson's life and work captivating, we'd love for you to subscribe to Quote Almanac. We aim to bring more insightful content on iconic figures from history, just like this. Emily's life wasn't just about poems. She was deeply connected to nature, a bond that's evident in her work. She often wrote about flowers, gardens, and the changing seasons, which were sources of constant inspiration. There's a rawness to her poetry, a direct line to the human soul, making her work timeless and relatable even today. Interestingly, much of Dickinson's work went unpublished during her lifetime. She maintained a strict sense of privacy, sharing only a fraction of her poems with close family members and friends. It was only after her passing that her complete oeuvre saw the light of day, changing the landscape of American poetry forever. And as we reflect on her life, we see a woman who was ahead of her time. Someone who saw the world through a unique lens and captured its essence in words. A beacon for introverts, a symbol of unyielding spirit, and an icon of poetic prowess. In closing, remember the words of Emily herself: forever is composed of nows. In our fast-paced world, it's a poignant reminder to cherish the present. If you love this deep dive into the life and works of Emily Dickinson, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Quote Almanac for more insightful content on the world's greatest minds.